Premier League is back, and with it, the passion, the arguments, and of course, the admiration for some of the great players that are in the Premier League. There was a time when it wasn't the greatest league in the world. It's possible to argue now that maybe it is. The arrival of Erling Haaland to Manchester City means that the best players in the world do want to play in the Premier League, and that is a very interesting change in the way the game is internationally. And it's a pleasure to welcome now, to review the first 2 weeks of the Premier League, Liam Brady. Later in the day we'll have John Giles. But Liam, you played in an era, and you played for a club, Juventus, who were one of the great European, and remain one of the great European clubs. But the centre of greatness, really, you could argue, was in Spain and Italy, where the money was and where the great players preferred to play rather than the Premier League. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, without doubt, Eamon. Yeah. The top players go where the top money is, and in those days, as you say, it was Italy. Italy was very strong in the late 80s, 90s.
Yeah, and the great coaches as well.
Yeah. The Italians weren't scared of bringing in foreign coaches, but not compared to England now. I would say, pro rata, that the Italians had many more coaches, homegrown coaches than we're seeing in the Premier League. Who have we got? We've got Eddie Howe and Potter and maybe David Moyes at West Ham, and the rest probably are foreign coaches. So there's more, but yeah, the money is like a magnet for the top players and top managers, and that's the way the Premier League is now. What is it, 30 years old, Eamon? Recently,
30 years this week. And in the case of Haaland, for example, who, and we might start by looking at the champions, Liam. He came to Manchester City. He could have gone anywhere. Madrid were really seriously trying to get him. Not only would he have come for the money, but he'd come also to play for Pep Guardiola, whose reputation as a coach is without peer. And it's the whole package, really, isn't it? It's playing, winning, being in the later stages, or perhaps winning the Champions League, and also being coached by someone like Pep. All of that, as well as the money, would have appealed to Haaland.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the whole package, Eamon, as you say. Like Manchester City are a powerhouse in football now. You've got Guardiola as manager, and for the foreseeable, he's going to be the manager. He's got great players to play with. He knows he's going to score goals in that team. He knows he's got every chance of winning titles. The Champions League has eluded him, so I'm sure he'll be, his record in the Champions League scoring is off the charts. So I'm sure, it's a big fit. It's a big match.
Yes.
The City needs it, someone like him, and he's got the platform now to show the world what he can do.
And in the first 2 games of the season, Liam, away to West Ham in the first game, Haaland scored 2 goals, 1 a penalty, but the other a superbly taken goal. And of course, they played Bournemouth at home and beat them comfortably at the weekend. But they do look now, with Haaland in the side, to score regularly, which is something they didn't quite have last year. They do look seriously difficult to beat in the title race for the Premier League. I know it's early days and there's all kinds of caveats you can enter, but it's Manchester City's to lose, really, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, and we'll probably talk about the other teams, in this interview.
Yeah.
But they've definitely started the best. They just passed West Ham to death in the first game. West Ham just never got a kick of the ball. It was, in fact, watching it can be a little bit boring to watch. That might be not the right thing to say from someone who thinks that possession of the ball is what it's all about. But they just pass and pass and pass, and sometimes they're so superior to the opposition team, as they were against West Ham, that it can become a bit of a,
I agree.
You don't know you know what's going to happen type of thing, don't you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, sometimes I'm watching him and I find myself thinking, this isn't a contest, really. It's more an exhibition. Just in that game, the second goal he scored, it was a great through ball from De Bruyne, but it was the way he set his body up to receive it, the pace he showed and the certainty to stroke it into the corner net. In that instant, he showed qualities and class that I haven't seen from a player that young for a very long time.
Well, he's been sensational the last 2-3 seasons, Eamon. You know, that's why Manchester City had to pay as much money as they had for him. He can score all sorts of goals, and he's got to score goals with his head as well, Eamon. So they've got the total package there, I think. After Aguero, they tried several things, and they thought they had to go and get Harry Kane last year. That didn't work out. But I think now, having won the title last year and not had to pay the money for Harry Kane, who's getting on, now they've got this great young striker.
22 years of age, Liam.
Yeah, and he's probably going to be around for the next 10 years. So, they've got a great deal. Everything's worked out for them. And that's his second goal against West Ham was a superb goal. And with players like De Bruyne, feeding him, he's got to score 30 goals, 30 league goals this season, Eamon, if he avoids injury.
Yeah. Now, Liam, the other, I suppose, massive talking point over the past 2 weeks, Manchester United. We really want to talk about Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool and the great clubs. But the Manchester United story won't go away. They lost at home to Brighton in the opening game and Brentford humiliated them on Saturday 4-0. And they didn't appear to have a go in either game, actually. But on Saturday, they reached what Gary Neville called a new low. Now, you played for Arsenal, you worked there with Arsene Wenger, and the post-Ferguson era for United has been extremely challenging, and the post-Arsene Wenger period for Arsenal was equally challenging. When these great sort of large characters, great coaches leave a club, it does appear to leave a vacuum that's very difficult to fill.
Well, that's right. And, in both cases, things are kind of similar, Eamon, is that, Man United had the Glazers, Arsenal had the Kroenkes. And when they got rid of, or in Ferguson's case, he retired. In Arsene Wenger's case, I think they moved him on. They decide then that they're going to run the show. Do you know what I mean? The guys in suits, the executives, they're going to take over the buying and selling of players, and that's what's happened at both clubs, really. Yeah, Arsenal seem to be getting themselves back on their feet now. Yes. But they've had five seasons where they've spent badly, and nobody compares to the debacle at Manchester United. The money that's being spent there. And they still, and this man, he's come into a situation where he still doesn't have a team. He's got a load of names, a load of so-called reputations, but they're not a team, Eamon. They're not sticking together. As soon as something goes wrong, you can see them fold. Ten Hag has a hell of a battle on his hands to get this back on track. It's really. When we weren't doing the podcast for a little while, I was talking to John about who he thought do well this season, and I say, Ten Hag is supposed to be a really good coach, John. Maybe he said, no, they won't do it. It's a mess. John said it's a mess. Still is a mess. Yeah, and it looks like it, doesn't it? You got Ronaldo. What's going on there with Ronaldo? He didn't pick him the first game. He picked him the next game. It all seems to be about the names they've got, Eamon. We're not talking about them as a team. No, and
looking at what they've spent, Liam, they spent on transfers since 2012 1.38 billion. Now, Brentford's annual wage bill is 17 million. United's is 203 million. But it was the manner of the defeat. I wonder, Liam, and here's the question. Martinez is 5'9". He played for Ten Hag at Ajax. He brought him to the club. He had to take him off at half-time because a 5'9" centre-half doesn't work. Certainly in a back four, maybe in a back three. But they were destroyed on Saturday. And I wonder if you compared the Dutch League with the Premier League, with the intensity that Brentford brought to that game, I wonder, is Ten Hag in shock?
Well, he certainly gave doubters ammunition, with this lad coming in, as you say, at 5'9" in the Premiership. He's got to play against a lot of guys who are big and strong up front.
Yeah.
The next game they were going to play Liverpool, and he was going to be up against Nunes. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But how's he going to do against Haaland? This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of say, he's paid 73 million for a 5'9" centre half.
Yeah.
It gives people ammunition to fire bullets at him, before he's even up and running at him, So, and then as you say, to have to take him off at half time. Well, 73 million to take somebody off at half time.
Yeah.
He's got a hell of a battle on his hand, hell of a job on his hands.
The other question that's arisen there is about De Gea, not about the blunder for the first goal, but about his ability to play the ball out short from the back. And that cost them a goal, the second goal actually, against Brentford, who were lined up to get their press on. The ball ended up in the back of the net. So I want to ask you this, because a lot of people will wonder and talk about it. There's no doubt about De Gea's ability as a shot stopper, but it appears now that goalkeepers in the Premier League, in particular, they need to be able to play out from the back. They need to be comfortable on the ball, in possession of the ball, and able to do that, which De Gea isn't. So people are saying De Gea's got to go. What's your view on that?
Well, I thought De Gea has made many a mistake down the line, but he's also had this good seasons, Eamon, where
he's been player of the year 4 times there.
Yeah, he's probably been the only Manchester United player to come out of seasons with any credit at all. But he does make a lot of mistakes. I don't think he's how can I say? I don't think he's one of the world's top goalkeepers anymore.
Right.
And to ask him to do that, I wouldn't ask any goalkeeper to be passing the ball in his own box. I've seen Arteta try to do it at Arsenal, and he's abandoned it now.
Yes.
And yes, some goalkeepers can be very, very good at it. But if you keep insisting on playing that ball within your 18-yard box, the other teams are going to press you, and sooner or later you're going to make a mistake. And as it was shown at Brentford, a mistake leads to a goal so quickly. So I don't really get it. I don't get Ten Hag kind of trying to play that way. I never got Arteta trying to play at it. I never got Stephen Kenny trying to play at it.
No.
I think it's asking for trouble. It really is. So the goalkeeper's got to make a decision. If you can pass the ball out from the back and roll it to your centre back who can get turned, or roll it to the winger, or roll it to your full back or wing back, and he can get turned and play started. That's the way to pass out from the back, but not 3 or 4 passes within your 18-yard box. It's asking for trouble, and it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and you're starting from a stationary position, which is difficult in any case. Just thinking about Ancelotti at Madrid, Liam, I was fascinated. I watched him last year. He didn't deploy that tactic. Sometimes, yes, but mostly not.
If you're the goalkeeper, Eamon, you look up, you have the ball at your feet, or it might be one of the centre-backs, and he looks up in front of him, and he sees how close the opposition are to the midfield player or to one of his teammates, and whether he can pass the ball to him. And that's good decision making, either from the goalkeeper or from one of the defenders. But I think Ancelotti's got a team there who've got the intelligence to look up and go, well, this is not on anymore. I'll just knock it up to Benzema.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what the best goalkeepers, the best decision makers do, and that's why they don't get caught. But De Gea, I don't know whether he was under instruction. It looked as if he was under instruction.
Yes, definitely.
We're going to play out. We're Manchester United. We're going to play out from the back. But look, Harry Maguire's not comfortable on the ball coming out from the back, I don't think. No. Getting turned. De Gea shouldn't be doing it, Eamon. And I think we might have seen the last of it.
Just people will want to know your view, Liam. I mean, Manchester United, with its fantastic history, with all the great players, with Ferguson and Matt Busby going back, it's a great club, and its fans are passionate. They're worldwide. What's your take on? My own view is where they are now isn't the end of it. It could get much worse because they don't have the players, and I don't really think this coach, from limited evidence, I must admit, is the one to dig them out, because I don't think the Glazers are given the money to buy the kind of players. For example, Haaland wouldn't go anywhere near Manchester United. Mbappe, I won't leave PSG, but if he was, he wouldn't be going anywhere near Manchester United. So they don't have the players, and I don't think they'll be able to get them, Liam.
Well, that's the thing that's changed dramatically, isn't it? When Ferguson was in charge, he could probably get any player he wanted in the world, really.
Yeah.
He was in competition, obviously, with the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona. But Fergie could get the top players. But now, as you say, players and agents are looking at the situation and going, well, you don't really want to go there. There's too much turmoil going on,
Yeah.
So I don't know whether there is further lows for Manchester United. You're probably right. They have to get rid of a lot of players, which they don't seem to have any value in the transfer market either.
No.
So it's we could do the whole podcast on Manchester United. I mean, it's a fascinating story. I feel sorry for the guy. He's done a good job at Ajax.
Yeah.
Ajax in Holland it's probably like Celtic or Rangers in Scotland or Bayern Munich in Germany. You're ahead of the pack with the players they've got and the youth system they've got. And there's less pressure. You come to Manchester United and got to sort out all these so-called superstars. It's not going to be easy.
Let me ask you about Arsenal, Liam. They've had a good start to the season. Won their first two games, joined top of the league with 6 points with Manchester City. Arteta appears to be doing okay without spending fortunes. But last time I spoke to you, you still had reservations and you're not sure where it's going, that project.
Well, I went to see them play on Saturday against Leicester City. I watched them play on the television against Crystal Palace. The team is definitely better, Eamon. Jesus coming from Manchester City has made a hell of a difference. We've got what he looks like is a proper centre forward who's going to keep the ball view when you give it to him. He's making great runs. He's lively. He's backing into. He's one of the best things I've seen about him. He's only about 5'9", and he's backing into these centre backs like who are 6'2". He's managing knock them out of their stride, and I think he's given the team a huge boost. Zinchenko coming in at left back is very good on the ball. You know that from he wouldn't have been at Manchester City if he wasn't.
Yeah.
So I think he's been a plus signing. And Saliba, who was away in France for 2 years on loan, has come back and he looks really, really good. He scored an own goal against Leicester City at the weekend, but that was the only kind of mistake, if you can call it mistake. I think he got into a bit of a mix-up with his goalkeeper, but he's in the two games he's played, he's been absolutely brilliant. So those three players alone have made a hell of a difference to the team. Right. I still have reservations. I've got reservations about the goalkeeper, I have to say.
Yeah.
I think he's too keen to get involved. he goes looking for trouble instead of saying I want to stay calm here. I'm happy not doing anything, But he's one of those goalkeepers. Looks like he can have a rush of blood to the head, to get involved. So I've got a little bit of a question mark about him. And in midfield, I don't think we can compete with the very top teams. Right. You've got Xhaka and you've got Partey, and I think they'll be okay for probably playing against the teams from fifth down and things like that. But when they have to come up against really top teams in the midfield, we might have problems there, Eamon. But a good start and all, and very encouraging.
Now, Liam, last night Liverpool at home to Crystal Palace. Patrick Vieira, of course, the coach at Palace, an Arsenal legend and a great player himself. Liverpool, the high line cost them the goal. I thought it was a bad goal to give away. And to be fair to Wilfried Zaha, he took the goal brilliantly. And Ez, the left-sided midfield player who played the pass through, it was a delightful ball. But Van Dijk caught, instead of dropping back, he's trying to play the offside. And really, Trent Alexander, again, one-on-one with Xhaka. He's also moving up. I thought it was a terrible goal to give away. And this is the question I want to ask you. In every game I see Liverpool play, there seems to be 2 or 3 instances at least where guys get one-on-one with Alisson, the Liverpool goalkeeper. He bails them out time after time, but it's usually down that left-hand side. What did you make of the game last night, and what about that apparent weakness, Liam?
Well, it is a weakness. I know people have been, I've seen some of the Twitter stuff about us saying, Liverpool are weak because they play a high line. People say, well, hang on a minute, they're winning games, they're winning every game they play. Yeah, but it is a weakness, and they haven't addressed it. And I thought Jamie Carragher described it very, very well last night. They're leaving one-on-one situations and letting one defender make the decision. Yeah. And instead it should be 2 defenders against 1. But when you've got Van Dijk and you've got Phillips, as it was last night, just in the line, that's one-on-one, Yeah. And Zaha showed him a clean pair of heels. He actually put his arm up Phillips, over at the linesman, trying to say he was offside. He wasn't offside, nowhere near it. And then Van Dijk, I thought Carragher described it well. He gets back, and instead of really going maybe in with a sliding block or something like that, he kind of says to himself, well, you're not going to beat our goalkeeper from there. And he was casual. And that's one of the other things I say about Van Dijk. If he has a weakness, he's sometimes casual. Yeah. And Liverpool have had that situation now in the first 2 games of the season. Yeah. They don't look as if they're yet there, Eamon, as regards their game. Yeah. They were too keen to go straight, for the jugular last night. They could have been passing the ball a bit more and making situations easier. Yes. They were trying to pick out the front players very, very quickly, and I thought that kind of played into Crystal Palace's hands. But obviously the guy getting sent off. If he doesn't get sent off, you would have fancied Liverpool to win that match. Yeah, and Núñez is the man concerned. I hadn't seen him play 90 minutes before, Liam. He had chances. He had a couple of chances in the first half. One in particular, he should have attacked with his head and buried it, but he didn't. And I wasn't convinced at all. But John told me that John saw him when I was away, said top player. And John thinks he is a top player. I wasn't impressed by what I saw last night. And that head-butting incident was really ugly, and it was very stupid. Well, he looks a fiery character. He looks as if he doesn't mind the physicality of the game. Yeah. But I don't know. I think the guy was marking him. There's a guy called Anderson. He is, yeah. And he was needling him, and he could see this kind of frustration building up in Núñez. As you say, he had a couple of very good chances in the first half, and he missed them, and he just lost the head a bit. But he's going to be out for 3 games, and they've got a few injuries out anyway. So Klopp didn't need that.
No.
Certainly didn't need it. I liked what I saw. He was very good against Fulham, Eamon.
Yeah.
Very good. And I've liked what I've seen of him so far. But Louise got a great goal, didn't he? What a great goal!
Oh, yeah.
But that was a fantastic goal.
He's a real player, isn't he? A good lad too.
Yeah, he works so hard. He just fits into the Klopp mentality of a Liverpool attacking player. But they're not firing on all cylinders yet. They were sloppy against Fulham, and I thought they were sloppy last night for the first goal. And there was other instances where they, people will say, well, they win all their matches, so what are you worried about a few goals they give away? But against against the top teams in the top games, and I think it cost them in the Champions League final last year as well.
Yeah, and a lot of Hollywood passes, but that's another conversation. But in the first half, it was brilliant to watch at times. I mean, Trent in particular, Salah. But there's a lot of Hollywood stuff. Maybe the basics would be better. Now, the big controversy at the weekend, Liam, was the London derby. Spurs, Chelsea. Spurs have a terrible record at Chelsea. But Antonio Conte has given them something in terms of organisation, of course, but also in terms of attitude. And the whole thing exploded. The referee was, who I think is the best referee in the Premier League, Anthony Taylor. But I would quibble with one thing. I'd be interested, first of all, on your take on it. The equalising goal that Spurs scored, I thought
the Harry Kane one.
No, the other goal that Richarlison was in the offside position, and the ball was past him. I thought he was offside, but
yeah, it was. He looked as if he was in the goalkeeper's eye line, didn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I
would have said that. Spurs were lucky to get, both goals. There was a hair-pulling incident.
There was, yeah.
That they got away with it. But it was a pulsating game, and it was very, very good to watch. Yeah. Chelsea were by far the better team.
Yes.
And, if you were looking at things, you'd say, oh, Spurs, they just didn't seem to be able to get a grip in the middle of the park.
Yeah, midfield was where Chelsea dominated, Liam.
Yeah, they were very good. Kante was very good. Yeah. Jorginho, till he made that mistake, was very good. But no, if I was looking at the game, you would be well pleased with Chelsea and say, no, they look well up for the season. I thought there might be repercussions with Abramovich leaving, that Tuchel would have a very hard time of it trying to get the players focused with the big changes that happened at the club. But I have to admit, looking on their performance and against Everton in the first game of the season, they look up for it. They look up for it, and they have a very strong squad again. And they're talking about getting players in, maybe even Aubameyang from Barcelona to get him in before the window closes. So I think Chelsea. I had my doubts, but looking at the first two games, I think they're up for it. But, it's a long, hard season. Spurs, despite the ability of Conte as manager to get them organised, I just thought the contrast in midfield, Eamon, was stark.
It was,
Chelsea were hugely the better midfield. And you'd be worried for, if you were a Spurs fan looking at that, are those midfielders going to actually get the service to Harry Kane and Song and Kulusevski?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. So it was a good game, and I had a bet on the draw, but I don't know how I won it, to be quite honest.
Just a final question about Conte and his temperament, given that he and Tuchel really had a heavy interchange, and it wasn't the usual old, Hollywood job. These guys were seriously angry with each other. Conte's reputation, I don't think he's fiery and he's passionate and he shows it, but I've never seen him get involved with another coach before, and I haven't seen Tuchel do it either. Apparently they don't get on. What do you make of it?
Well, I thought the both of them were well out of order, Eamon.
Yeah.
The Premier League have got to stop this. They've got to stop this kind of aggro going on the sidelines, and so many staff getting involved as well. This.
Yeah.
So I thought their behaviour was diabolical, to be quite honest. And I've seen other managers getting involved as well. I really think the FA Premier League, I've got to say to these managers, look, this can't be happening. I wouldn't be surprised if these two get a lengthy ban off the sideline.
Yep. Okay, Liam, we're grateful to you for joining us. And at this stage in the season, Liam, it's a bit early to be calling it, but you'd have to say, all things considered, Manchester City are strong favourites to win the Premier League this year after 2 games.
I know you love nailing colours to the mast,
I do.
It's a bit early. What I will say is Liverpool haven't started that well, but they're such a good team that they'll come good. Chelsea have surprised me. I thought they might have a few more problems, so I think they're looking good. It's the same story. I think those three maybe. Chelsea fell away. I know last year. Liverpool kept it going right till the end. In the Champions League positions, I would be hoping Arsenal will do something, but I wouldn't be banking on it. Spurs are going to be there, and who knows? We might get a surprise in the form of maybe a Newcastle or a Brighton this year.
Okay, Liam, we're grateful to you as always for joining us. That's Liam Brady, one of the great players and now one of the great analysts of the beautiful game. We're grateful to Liam.